Welcome to another episode of the Community Broadband Bits podcast. I'm Christopher Mitchell at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, and I'm from my home away from home for 2 days, Houston, Texas. I'm down here for the Broadband Communities event. Maybe you've already heard a show because this isn't going to be the best one, is it, Ken?
Oh, no, I think it will be, actually. I think this will set a new landmark.
Ken Demelo, longtime friend with HR Green. Ken, just briefly, what sort of stuff do you do? I'm a policy guy, right? I think about stuff like that. You're like an engineer, right?
So we have an engineering group. My area is
That's why I said
more,
like an engineer.
Yeah, and I'm not. By the way, I'm not an engineer. But we start with how do we help communities figure out what they need to do, and so we do surveys and helping them, GIS, helping them kind of determine. And then we have an engineering group. And if they are moving forward with things that they want to do, then the engineering group takes over and works things out from there.
But you're always associated with, you work closely with engineering groups, I feel like, historically, right?
We do, yeah.
Well, I mean, you do.
I
as
do
a
personally,
person.
yes.
Yeah. Now, HR Green has a whole history of dealing with all kinds of civil engineering projects and things like that.
HR Green is actually 109 years old. Yeah, and it was civil engineering, and then we started a fiber and broadband group because it's all dealing with the right of way.
Right.
Yeah. But I do hang around with engineers, and I hang around with people smarter than me.
Yeah, well, that's the smartest thing you can do.
Right.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. Like me hanging out with you, Chris.
Exactly.
Wait, which way does that
I'm way smarter than you on photography, but on other things, we'll have to work that out.
Yeah, so there you go.
So the reason I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit is I just feel like a lot of people are like, okay, so I don't even know the difference between what different firms do. And when I say that, I'm not even talking about someone new to a community. I'm talking about people on my staff who have worked for me for years. I'm like, wait, what does this company do? So I thought we could talk about that a little bit from the frame of I'm a community. Let's call it Mitchell. The community of Mitchell, not in South Dakota.
Not in South Dakota.
The South Dakota Mitchell. And I'm convinced my leadership really recognizes that we need municipal broadband for some reason. But before we can go financing, we need to go through all the steps and everything else. So we say, HR Green, come help us out. What do you start doing first?
And by the way, this applies more to every size community than you might think. And so a community of 2,000 or 3,000 people, they actually have the same questions of communities of 100,000, 500,000 people. Now it's different scale and different, but a lot of the questions are the same. So what we typically find is we come into a community and they really just don't know what to do. They think there's a need. Anecdotally, they've heard there's a need. We have to start so our first part of our process is what we call visioning, and that is where we say, okay, let's figure out what's going on here. Let's get eyes on this. And so there's several things we can do. And there's different options, but typically it involves, okay, what infrastructure does the city have? And do you know what you have? Is it recorded? And Chris, it's really interesting. There are communities that are fairly sophisticated, and they'll say, oh, yeah, we have conduit. And I'm not exaggerating. We'll say, well, okay, where? Let's see it. And they're like, well, we don't exactly know.
Right. It's under this street.
We think it's under this street.
Sure.
Yeah. Or Joe, who retired 5 years ago, that's where he thought he put it. I mean, could really, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this is not like oh, that's a dumb town. This is a common occurrence because we haven't had the right systems for tracking this information.
It's very common occurrence. As a matter of fact, I would say we ran into that probably 80-90% of the time. I mean, not a little percent, vast majority.
And for people who are like, well, this is why local governments shouldn't get involved in broadband, the situation isn't much better for AT&T or Frontier from what I can tell.
No, it's not. And in defending government and all that, is they're taking different steps to get different things done. There's different initiatives and misunderstanding. And then, quite frankly, the technology even changes. I mean, somebody that's putting this in 10 years ago didn't have what we have to track it now. They had it on maps and stuff. And, hey, by the way, I know at my house, if I write something down and I think I'm going to put that exactly where I need to have it, 5 years from now, we're not going to know where that was.
Right. Oh, I take pictures while the walls are open with a tape measure.
See?
And then as long as I don't lose my phone, I know where that picture is.
Yeah. And so really, the expectation of you really should know where every piece of all of that is. None of us live our lives that way. And why would that be any different than, so anyway, so one of the first steps then is we say, okay, let's start figuring out what's actually here. I mean, let's just go straight infrastructure.
Okay, so we're going to skip over that now, though. So we've gone through that. We figured out what's actually here.
Yep.
So,
by the way, both from the public sector and the private sector, seeing if we can figure out what the private sector has there.
Sure.
So we put all that together. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So we have that together.
Yep.
What do we do next?
Yeah. So in our vision process, so we figure out the lay of the land. Next, we want to figure out, most communities, again, no matter what size, think they know certain things, but they're also pretty upfront that there's probably things they don't. So what we do then is say, okay, what steps do we need to take to help you really get good data? And in our industry right now, the vast majority of the time it's let's do a survey. We do that online typically, which has its own problems because if you don't have broadband at all, then how do you take an online survey? But we do that the best we can, and we figure out how to do that to where we get them some actual data to work from. So once we have that, once we have the what infrastructure, once we have, do the best feel we can get. And by the way, we typically do that with a survey, but then we also interview the different departments because, give you an example, one of my clients, they had mediocre broadband. We went to their city and their city staff, and the city staff, when we said, okay, what do you have? And they said, well, we have a direct connection from a local provider, no redundancy. So our community's growing. We go down probably once a week. The city goes down once a week.
Yeah, that doesn't work for the police department.
It does not. And by the way, they told me that.
Right. Just in case you're curious,
yes.
We're not happy with this situation.
This is not going well. This is not good. So we kind of round out what's the need through those different methods. And then that's the vision. And then we go to what we call planning. And that is, then we say, okay, let's start figuring out what your options are. And we usually go by an order of magnitude of saying we will actually do a high-level design of what we see as your options. And then you can take that and act on it either by, okay, we want to participate in that, or we want to take that to the provider community and go out like to an RFI or something like that, but have a real RFI. Like is there really something we could do here? So then we get that feedback, and then we help them decide, okay, now we know what the problem is. We know what some solutions are. We're getting feedback from the provider community, or we're doing it ourselves. So now let's figure out what that means financially. Let's figure out what that means, politically. And then start landing the planes.
Now, when you say a high-level design, is that where you kind of you haven't actually sent an engineer out to walk the rights of way or things like that, right? But you have a general sense, the poles are crazy in this town, we're not going to be able to use them, or wow, the poles are great and we're going to be able to use them, and we have a sense of what the cost is of that. Or I'm in Maine, so we're not going to be doing anything underground versus I'm in a town where we can do most stuff underground pretty cheaply. That's what you include at that level, or is that not even there yet?
It is. So just at a very quick level, we'll find out from the pole provider, whoever that is, local electric, whoever, and kind of look at what features are there, what can actually be done. Is it a high rock table? Just some of that very first look. And we do not send anybody out to the field. At that point, it's just, okay, here's your center street lines. Here's kind of what the lay of the land is, what the issues are. Different companies do this differently. Different consultants do this differently. We actually do a full design. Now, it's just not field verified. But we do a full design, so it even says how many handholds, this is how many feet, all that.
So the engineers are fully involved from your staff to do that?
Yes.
And in another situation, you might have a consultant, like you and I both were close friends with Eric Lampland when he was doing this work.
Yep.
This is where Jim Petro would come in
with...
what's the name of his firm? I can't remember.
Newcom.
Yeah. So you would come in with, that's where I got to know you originally. Yeah. So some places you might have HR Green has all this stuff in-house. Like a Magellan will have this in-house. CTC will have this in-house.
Yes.
Other folks will have a series of partners that they work with who bring some of this expertise to bear.
Yeah. One thing I would just recommend to communities is the firms you named and how they do it are firms that really kind of do say, let's go ahead and get a map out here. And the reason for that is because we want to kind of get a feel of order of magnitude that's a real order of magnitude. The consultants that concern me are the ones who don't have that staff and they don't farm that out. They go in and say, okay, look, roughly a foot would be such and such. We think there's about this many road feet, so here's a number. The problem is that's really not based on anything. And we're not doing a field walk out, but by the same token, at least we have quantities, right? Where there are firms still out there today who just don't use any of that technology, and they just do a per foot, we think it's this many feet, so here's a rough magnitude. I'm concerned about that because, boy, that number then goes through decision making. Right,
that's a number that sticks around for a while.
It does. It needs to. Yeah. So, but yeah, the firms you named,
So
I'll do some variation of design. It's just the difference is you don't walk it out and to figure out the details.
And we'll come back to what the walking it out means in a second. But so this is a number then where you're kind of like going back to the elected officials. I mean, like, are you picking your jaw up off the floor? Like, is this something like, so my community, my town of Mitchell, we're like, no, that's cool. We set aside our rescue plan dollars. We're ready to put some of our own skin in the game. This number doesn't scare us. So what's next?
Yeah. And Chris, something you said there is just very important. Folks really don't have any order of magnitude, really. I mean, I actually had a county say, look, we want to throw in some ARPA dollars, and there's a company we think might want to build out, and they were going to partner instead of do it themselves. And they said, if we, and I'm not exaggerating, they said, boy, if we threw out about $10,000, do you think that would help them?
The answer, listeners, for our confused is no. That would not be worth. That would not necessarily be worth going through the trouble of procuring it.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a real question, no joke.
Yeah.
So an order of magnitude is, to your point, pick up your jaw off the floor. I mean, an order of magnitude could be, is this 10 million? Is this 20 million? Is it 30 million? And then saying, okay, do we want to do anything with that, or do we want to start working with somebody else, and what do we need to do to make that happen and all that? So from there, that decision is a big decision next, and then the community will either typically decide, okay, we're going to actually start going down the process of seeing if we can get that finance, seeing if we could bond, whatever. Or say, okay, now we kind of know what we're getting into. Now we know where our needs are. We're actually going to go out to the provider community and say specifically, are you interested in this? Do you want to help with this? And so they have specifics to be able to talk over with a provider. So they have that decision to make. Now, if they decide to do it themselves, as silly as it sounds, these are all true. From there we go, that's a high-level design. Mm-hmm. From there, if they're really thinking about doing it themselves, we go to a mid-level design. No joke. So, and then, by the way, the other one is low-level design, actually. But so the mid-level design is basically to say, we're going to go out and get some budget quotes. We're going to figure out what construction contractors are charging right now. We're going to, knowing roughly what the materials are, we're going to get some quotes on just, the main items. And then be able to take that to a bonding company or to a financing company or to a bank so that they can say, if we want to do that, could we? Mm-hmm. Now, I actually was working with another company, another community, and they said, we're really interested in that. And I said, okay, so how do you want to do it? They said, well, we'd probably want to bond it. Okay, what's your bond capacity? And they said, we're maxed. So, okay. Yeah, but
that does make it more difficult.
It changes things. It does. But they could either decide to look that way and do that. By the way, whoever's listening to this, communities, if you're going to build it, it's not like you have to build it and operate it and do all the pieces and do all the maintenance. There are companies that will do that for you. You can have it open access, at which point you lease it out to people who want to join on it. So it's not like you have to become a utility to own it and operate it. Again, you have those options. Or if it's really like, look, we just can't do that. I mean, that's too much money. That's too much whatever. We don't have the political will, whatever.
So on your side, the mid-level design, you really already have close to a low-level design, right?
Yeah.
And now what you're doing is you're getting you have a sense of what things are going to cost. Now you're checking those assumptions against actual vendors and figuring out labor costs and things like that.
Yeah. And then if they want to pursue it themselves, that mid-level design gives them enough detail that bonding companies trust or financing institutions trust. Then if those still all green lights, then we go and do the walkout, which is what we talked about, which is where we actually take that mid-level design. We actually send the crew. They actually go out to the field, go out to the community. They actually check the route, which side of the street is it on, which, is there a wall in the way? Is there, a building in the way that, so they go verify the entire route. And then we actually do a very specific design that actually is what will get built off of. So we actually, the low-level design is where we actually do construction level, permit level. I mean, all those detail levels that there's off-ramps at all these. But if all that's looking good, then we take those detailed designs, or we do an RFP for a construction contractor, and then also do an RFP for the network access equipment that connects on the ends of the fiber. Chris, one thing just for people to know too, right now we're in a strange time.
Right.
Because
a lot of this is theoretical right now.
Well, and if we wait to get the detailed design done to go to a construction contractor, because that's the way it's typically gone, is then a construction contractor does the labor and buys the material, but a lot of the material right now can be up to a year out.
Right, so you need to get that going early.
Well, so what we end up doing, and this is crazy. I've never done this in my entire career. I was in a meeting with this is a vendor that was good enough to have this conversation. I was with Graybar and Qualcomm, two vendors in the industry. And I said, you guys, what would you think about if we took our mid-level design and actually ordered materials? And that means we can order almost a year ahead. But would you be willing to change the order if detailed design changes something, like more or less, or we have to have a higher capacity for some reason? Would you be willing to change the order? And they said yes. Mm-hmm. And I said, by the way, would you mind? Could you explain to me why the answer is yes? And they said, because if we don't sell it to you, we'll sell it to somebody else.
That's what I was thinking you'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so without putting them on the hook, that they're not necessarily willing to do that with everyone, that's a conversation to have with the vendor.
It is. You have to. By the way, the one other implication of that is that means the community might have to buy the materials, which means you have to think in terms of materials, logistics, and all that kind of stuff. But
warehouse, all that stuff.
Yeah, that sort of
Security.
thing. Yeah, or you can put the conduit out, as long as you got a fence, you can put the conduit out. But
I don't know. I mean, I think some of the folks around here might be like going around in trucks with hitches on them.
Aerial pictures, right? Wait, there's there in the middle of the night.
That one's not well defended. I'm taking that one.
Right? Yeah, but that's all.
6 months there's going to be sentries around that conduit.
See, so yeah, armed guards, yeah, really. But at this point, that's all ways that whatever consultant that a community would bring on needs to be able to say, okay, are you willing to wait, not this upcoming construction season, but maybe not even the next construction season? Is that okay? And if it is, then you just do it the traditional way. Mm-hmm. But if it's not, then we have to get creative. And if all of that works out, then you develop a schedule of, okay, so here's when our contractor can start, here's when the materials will be there, and then and are we going to operate it, or are we going to hire out the operations, or that sort of things.
Right.
Yeah.
So to be clear, if it's 100 miles of network that you're building, someone's walking 100 miles.
Yeah.
To get that low-level design.
Absolutely.
That still surprises me.
Okay, so here's one cool thing. There actually are now some cool ways to do that, like with LiDAR and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Good enough now where, depending on, particularly if it's on poles and depending on the electric on the poles, that can get pretty precise if the poles are full. Mm-hmm. But the LiDAR, actually, we can go do it, and that means we just have to walk out the sections that we have a lot of concern on. But there's ways to speed it up. But it still is every single foot, every single mile that we're making sure the design will work on that mile. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Always good to talk with you.
It's great to see you here in the Harrison Edwards studios at Broadband Communities. Thank you for making these available. And Ken, it's been great. I have to say for people, like if you see a guy named Ken Demlow hanging around at an event, the guy's got some good stories. I'm just going to say, strike up a conversation, try to have dinner with him.
It's once you've been in the industry, Chris, once you've been in the industry for a while, you get some pretty good stories. Yeah. And so there are some. So by the way, do that because be glad to tell stories.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
We have transcripts for this and other podcasts available at muninetworks.org/broadbandbits. Email us at podcast@muninetworks.org with your ideas for the show. Follow Chris on Twitter. His handle is @CommunityNets. Follow muninetworks.org stories on Twitter. The handle's @muninetworks. Subscribe to this and other podcasts from ILSR, including Building Local Power, Local Energy Rules, and the Composting for Community podcast. You can access them anywhere you get your podcasts. You can catch the latest important research from all of our initiatives if you subscribe to our monthly newsletter at ilsr.org. While you're there, please take a moment to donate. Your support in any amount keeps us going. Thank you to Arnie Hughesby for the song Warm Duck Shuffle, licensed through Creative Commons. This was the Community Broadband Bits podcast. Thanks for listening.